I divested my holdings in the exclusive lounge and felt prepared to tie the knot. However, my two business associates, who had pledged to remain loyal to me in marriage, were still unaware of my intentions. They were preoccupied with celebrating the promotion of the new male assistant. It was undeniably me who had instructed a client in horseback riding, sustained an injury during the process, and secured a substantial renewal contract. Yet the assistant observed me, struggling to straighten my spine, was hospitalized, and subsequently returned to the lounge with positive news to claim the achievement as his own. My partners blindly trusted his account. The following day, a photograph of me passionately kissing the client while horseback riding went viral within the internal messaging group. Mockery ensued, with whispers suggesting that my affluent clients were merely the result of my affairs. Lying in the hospital bed, I attempted to call and clarify the situation, but they dismissed my explanations. They insisted, "You injured your back while kissing on horseback. Don't fabricate a story about falling off the horse. If you're too embarrassed to face us, just stay home and stop seeking our sympathy." Ethan earned his reward, and we're celebrating his success. Please don't come and spoil the atmosphere. Upon my discharge and return to the lounge, I sold my shares to their formidable competitor and contacted my family. I expressed my willingness to marry the injured Miss Lee, urging them to begin wedding preparations. As Clara and Bella passed by, their brows immediately knitted together upon hearing my declaration. Wedding? What wedding? With only 10 days left until the ceremony, there was no need to conceal it from them. My wedding. Invitations will follow. Naturally, they were skeptical. At that moment, my mother sent over numerous wedding plans and invitations, and my phone buzzed incessantly. Clara and Bella leaned in to take a look and, upon discovering that I intended to marry someone with a disability, couldn't contain their laughter. Clara scoffed. "Did the Lee family from the city pay you to be their horse servant?" Bella, clutching her stomach, laughed uncontrollably. "I heard Miss Lee is a useless invalid, paralyzed from the waist down. Do you really think she'll make you happy?" These were the very individuals who had once vowed to spend their lives with me. Now they mocked me so cruelly. Ethan, who had come to confront them, overheard our conversation and looked at me incredulously. "Mr. Zhang, didn't you promise to be Miss Anna's partner? Aren't you risking everything by dating multiple people like this? Thanks to him, the entire lounge believes I'm involved with a major client." I shot him a cold look and responded, "When the manager speaks, you should respect your position. I might appear rude, but don't steal my accomplishments or spread false rumors about me. Isn't that illegal?" My sharp retort turned Ethan's face red. "Mr. Zhang, I apologize. I shouldn't have spoken out of turn. But when you and Miss Anna left the riding stable that day, you never mentioned keeping this quiet. I regret my actions. No wonder Miss Anna is willing to register the contract in my name. It's hush money." I raised my hand to strike him, but two pairs of hands stopped me simultaneously. "If you don't want others to know, don't proceed with it. Why are you taking it out on Ethan? He did nothing wrong. Regardless of whom you marry, you shouldn't toy with people's emotions. It's so beneath you." Fueled by anger, I nearly laughed before heading straight back to my office. After 5 years of friendship and collaboration, they didn't trust my integrity and preferred to believe Ethan, who had been with us for less than 2 months. Determined not to be upset by these petty individuals, I continued reviewing the wedding plans my mother had sent. But just 2 minutes later, Clara posted in the group, announcing that Ethan deserved the lounge's best car for securing the largest renewal contract since its inception. Hundreds in the group, eager to please, congratulated Ethan. However, I wasn't the only one. Immediately, some questioned the decision, pointing out that Ethan, a recent hire, was being given the general manager's exclusive car. It seemed excessive. As I was about to privately message those defending me to calm the situation, Ethan posted a voice message in the group, portraying himself as the victim. "It's all my fault. I was so focused on securing the client that I neglected to protect Mr. Zheng's privacy. I don't deserve to use his car and have no face to see him again. Therefore, I'd like to resign." Ethan's feigned remorse made me want to retch. Bella stormed into my office, shouting, "Look at what you've done. Quickly clear out your car and give Ethan the keys. I don't want you to sway public opinion and bully this young man who just started his career. Clara followed closely, urging me to go to the parking lot while still comforting Ethan in the group. Just as someone yelled that Ethan had gone to the rooftop, both women turned pale and hurried up to the roof in panic. I turned my attention away from their anxious figures and began contacting potential buyers for my shares. Clara and Bella must have discovered my plan to sell my shares somehow, as they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. I glanced at the email I had sent to them. Yesterday marked the 30th day. Since they hadn't responded, they no longer had the right of first refusal. Freya gave me 3 days to consider, and I immediately replied that I could sign the share transfer agreement right away. After selling my shares, the two who had been trying to win Ethan back descended to the parking lot. Upon seeing that I hadn't yet cleared out the car, they lost their patience. I told you to pack your personal items, not relocate. Do you really need to prolong this? Hearing this, Ethan clenched his lips and looked at me with red eyes. Mr. Zhang, I'm sorry. I don't actually need this fancy car. It's fine. If you want it, take it. I'll even offer you the general manager position as well. My words immediately flustered Ethan, leaving him speechless. Mr. Zhang, what's with your sarcasm? It's just a car. Do you really need to be so petty about it? We have a whole collection of luxury cars in my family's garage. Why would I care about a general manager's car? The disdain on my face clearly irritated Bella. She grabbed the car keys from the desk and went to the parking lot to throw all my belongings into the trash. Clara gave me a quick glance before taking Ethan to personally handle the car. Finally, after work hours, Clara opened the door to my office. Don't leave after work. We're having a dinner to celebrate Ethan learning to drive. I was somewhat stunned. Is learning to drive really worth celebrating? But I didn't refuse, treating it as my last dinner with my colleagues. At the dinner table, I realized that the few employees who had defended me in the group chat had all been fired by Clara. Under various pretenses, I quickly messaged them privately and discovered that Clara and Bella had instructed them not to contact me and to report me, threatening to blacklist them from the industry. To support Ethan, they didn't care about the lounge's senior staff. This move of killing the chicken to scare the monkey ensured that no one else would dare to offend the two powerful bosses on my behalf. Some even seized the opportunity to mock me. Mr. Zhang, you didn't attend Ethan's celebration dinner last time, but today you must toast him properly. If it weren't for him securing Miss Anna, who knows how much more you'd have to sacrifice. These insinuations reminded me of the vile remarks I'd overheard in the restroom earlier that day. I realized Mr. Zhang truly had thick skin. I had admired him, but it turned out he only managed through such tactics. He flirted with anyone. How could he have any integrity? Under everyone's gaze, I took a small sip of my drink. Clara's face immediately darkened, and she knocked my drink out of my hand. Bella, in perfect sync, poured me a glass of red wine. You made Ethan feel so bad today. It's only right to apologize with a drink, right? Besides, you owe Ethan a drink from the last celebration dinner you skipped. Without thinking, I splashed the wine onto Bella's face. Who does he think he is to deserve a drink from me? Everyone at the table was stunned by my action. Even the usually reserved Clara simply refilled my glass stubbornly. Mr. Zhang, this drink is for the unity of the lounge. Whether you like it or not, you have to drink. Ethan, feigning politeness, tried to intervene on my behalf. Bella, I know Mr. Zhang looks down on me. If he doesn't want to drink, it's fine. Please don't make it awkward for me. But Bella, with wine still dripping down her face, wasn't having it. Extremely irritated, she slapped me hard across the face, and taking advantage of my momentary surprise, forced the wine down my throat. You who rely on your body to win clients. How dare you look down on Ethan? The two women, fully aware of my alcohol allergy, were now force-feeding me alcohol for Ethan's sake, and their language was becoming increasingly crude. As the alcohol touched my throat, dizziness overwhelmed me, and I struggled to breathe. Tiny beads of sweat appeared on my forehead, but neither of them paid attention to my condition. Instead, They focused on pouring Ethan his favorite drink. Ethan downed the drink in one gulp and flashed me a cheerful smile. "Mr. Jang, thank you for giving up something so precious. I'll work harder from now on." Others thought he was referring to the car, but I saw through his eyes. He was determined to undermine both Clara and Bella. "Well then, I wish you a swift wedding and a successful career climb." After saying that, I headed to the restroom to induce vomiting, but Clara blocked my path with her hand extended. "What are you saying?" "Apologize to Ethan." I was overwhelmed with an unbearable itch and chest pain, my face flushed and eyes bloodshot. I looked up at Clara and asked, "I'm allergic to alcohol. Why are you forcing it on me?" Her hand froze midair. "Your grandfather and father are known for drinking countless cups without getting drunk. How can you be allergic?" Bella, who had been the one forcing me to drink, also questioned me. "I only made you take a small sip. How could a man not even drink a drop of alcohol? Even if you're allergic, it's not life-threatening." They didn't understand allergies, so they didn't think it was a big deal. I recalled the time I accidentally ate beer duck while dining with clients. They immediately panicked and rushed me to the hospital for a stomach pump. "Mr. Jang, I should have double-checked the menu. Please don't get hurt." Back then, Clara and Bella watched me turn pale from the stomach pumping, heartbroken and even crying. They prepared special soups for my stomach and took turns staying up all night by my side, worried I might not survive. The next day, both arrived at the lounge with dark circles under their eyes, working tirelessly to make up for the trouble I'd caused by eating the wrong thing. We had endured the toughest moments of building the business together, and now the two who had sworn to marry only me had turned their backs to support Ethan and hurt me. "Can you take me to the hospital?" My throat was swollen, and I spoke hoarsely, swaying, barely able to stand. One of the female employees noticed something was wrong and quickly rushed to help me. But Clara pushed her away, forbidding her from touching me. "Mr. Jang, is this how you use that charming look to lure clients into signing up?" The colleague who tried to help me turned pale. "Miss Bella, I think you've misunderstood Mr. Zhang. He's clearly struggling to breathe." Bella sneered. "He's just embarrassed and pretending. No wonder he couldn't tell something was wrong." Ethan had been watching the scene, clearly enjoying the drama. He picked up a glass of water and tried to shove it toward me. "Nah. Mr. Jang, no matter how you win your clients, you're still the lounge's big hero. We will always appreciate your hard work." His words only added fuel to the fire. Clara, who had been holding me up, suddenly pulled away. "If you don't want to stay here, then go ahead and leave," she said, rushing to the sink to wash her hands repeatedly. Under everyone's scornful gaze, I began to leave, intending to find my allergy medication in the car. But then I remembered. The car had been given to Ethan and all my belongings were thrown away. I turned to head for the hospital, but Ethan wouldn't let me leave. As he tugged at me, the water in the cup splashed onto my skin. I realized with a jolt that it wasn't water at all. It was high-proof liquor. My already red skin burned like needles. Reflexively, I shoved Ethan away. The drink splashed all over both of us. Ethan let out a loud cry. "Mr. Jang, I'm sorry. I grabbed the wrong cup." Bella quickly dashed over and ordered someone to buy allergy medication for Ethan, but she didn't notice that most of the alcohol had spilled on me. Ethan's hand showed no reaction, but my entire body was now flushed red like a boiled shrimp. After washing her hands, Clara returned to see Ethan breathing heavily and could no longer contain her fury. She slapped the other side of my face. "Mr. Jang, how could you be so vicious? Ethan is doing this all for you, and you just have to make trouble for this young man." In that moment, all the grievances I'd been holding back surged. I forced myself to hold back the tears welling in my eyes, offering a bitter smile. Just a few days ago, I clearly saw Ethan posting on social media, bragging about drinking and partying. How could I be allergic to alcohol now when there was just a little bit on my skin? Seeing me smile, Clara grabbed my arm and pulled me in front of Ethan. "I don't know what face you have to smile. Apologize to Ethan now." Bella, busy cleaning Ethan's hand, didn't stop talking. You have to apologize. Ethan is allergic to alcohol. Just a drop and he's in agony. The allergy medication quickly arrived, a whole box of it. I shakily extended my swollen right hand, hoping they'd give me a pill too. Without even looking at me, Bella slapped my hand away. My already red hand turned slightly purple from her slap. The sharp, burning pain mixed with a stinging itch made me shudder. Clara, still watching me like I was a criminal, glared. "What's this? You still want to cause trouble after refusing to apologize?" I shouldn't have expected them to give me a single pill. A nearby colleague, noticing my skin was now bright red, hesitated before speaking up. "Uh, Miss Bella, Mr. Jang really seems to be allergic to alcohol." Clara frowned, taking a moment to assess the situation. Her eyes scanned my skin under the dim lights. I could have sworn I saw a brief flicker of concern in her eyes, but as soon as she saw Ethan scratching uncontrollably, she quickly withdrew any sympathy she might have had. "Even if you're really allergic, you deserve it. Now apologize and leave." Apologizing was out of the question, but I wasn't about to humiliate myself further. Ethan, seeing that I wouldn't back down, gritted his teeth and pretended to be strong. "Miss Bella, I'm fine. You should take Mr. Jang to the hospital instead. The allergy is really unbearable." His sudden scream startled both Clara and Bella, who immediately dialed emergency services. I had no interest in watching this drama unfold. Turning away without a second glance, I left the scene without a care. It had started raining outside, and the cool droplets helped to ease some of my discomfort. Then Bella suddenly ran up to me. I thought she might have had a moment of conscience, but instead, she just threw my car keychain at my feet. "Pack up your stuff. Don't leave things behind and expect me to clean up your mess." I looked at the keychain, soaked in rainwater, and without a second thought, I picked it up and threw it in the trash. Bella was furious, pointing her finger at me. "Mr. Jang, what do you mean by that?" This keychain had been personally made by her and Clara in the past whenever they gave me gifts. They would argue over whose present I preferred. Later, to avoid any hard feelings, they started giving gifts either jointly or on a 50-50 basis so I wouldn't be accused of favoritism. "It's dirty now. It should be thrown away just like you and Clara once the heart is gone. It should be discarded." For some reason, Bella felt a fleeting sense of losing something important. But before she could dwell on it, her attention was quickly drawn back to Ethan. I took a taxi in the rain to the hospital, underwent stomach pumping, medication, and injections, and didn't feel better until late at night. The next day, I woke up to find my phone inundated with unfamiliar text messages. They were all from strangers sending me flirtatious messages, asking if I could meet their special requests. One stranger even sent me a website link, and I soon realized that my personal information had been leaked to a pornographic site. That private photo of me, if I wasn't mistaken, was one that Clara and Bella had taken. I called them to confront them, but they vehemently denied it. Worse, they turned it around and asked me, "Mr. Jung, can you pay more attention to your private life? This is really bad for the lounge's reputation. You should take a break from work for a while." Since I had already sold my shares in the lounge, there was no need to continue working there like a mule. Fine. My response made them pause for a moment, clearly caught off guard. They hadn't expected me to be so straightforward. Not only did I not make a scene, but my tone sounded unusually light, almost as if I had just put down a massive burden. "Mr. Jung, you." Clara seemed to want to ask me something, but before she could finish, Ethan called her and she hung up on me right away. They had acted unjustly, so now they could just wait for me to call the police, spread rumors, and leak my private information. Did they really think I was someone easy to mess with? After turning everything over to the police and my lawyer, I quickly packed my bags and flew to Metropolis B, preparing for my wedding. On the plane, I closed my eyes to rest, but my mind was swirling with countless thoughts. Before my grandfather passed away, he had arranged a childhood marriage for me. Raised in the countryside, I never wanted to marry hastily, nor did I have any interest in taking over the family business. So, I stubbornly left with Clara and Bella to venture into the outside world. My parents couldn't do anything about it, so they let me have my freedom for 5 years. I had once thought I'd make a name for myself, But now I returned, carrying nothing but wounds. When the plane landed in the city, my parents had been waiting at the airport for a long time, noticing how much more gray their hair had become. And I couldn't help but regret my rebelliousness over the past 5 years. If I had focused on the family business, maybe my parents wouldn't have had to worry so much. My thoughts were in turmoil, but my mother, with tears in her eyes, hugged me tightly. "How come you've lost so much weight since the last time you came back? You look so pale and sickly, Mr. Zhang. You're the heir to a great family, but instead of staying home and helping your grandmother with the garden, you insisted on going out to start a business, enduring all kinds of hardships. You really made things easy for your two business partners. By the way, they love you so much. How are they handling the fact that you're marrying someone else?" I shook my head gently. "Mom, stop saying such things. They're just business partners. I've already sold my shares. I won't have any more dealings with them." My parents weren't easily fooled. They knew the real reason I didn't want to return and marry. It was because I still had strong feelings for Clara and Bella. They had tried to probe me many times, asking if I liked either of them. At that time, with two childhood friends and business partners who had struggled alongside me, I couldn't make a decision. I always felt that no matter whom I chose, the other would be excluded not only from my love life, but from the business as well. I didn't want either of them to be hurt, so I tried to balance my feelings for both. In my heart, I even fantasized that the three of us would remain business partners for life, running the lounge together, becoming successful, and then traveling the world. But I never expected that my focus on the lounge's growth would be shattered by the appearance of a new assistant. The care I had dedicated for 5 years was suddenly taken away by him. It hurt, no denying it, but human hearts are fickle, and I had no choice but to accept the reality and walk away gracefully. "Mr. Zhang, you too didn't have a falling out, did you? I thought it was strange when you agreed to marry Melissa. My mother was worried I was just getting married out of spite. As for my father, after all these years, he had come to terms with it, as long as I was happy. Breaking a childhood promise wasn't such a big deal." To ease their worries, I did my best to reassure them. "Dad, Mom, I've had enough fun out there. I'm at the age where it's time to settle down and start a family. In the past, I was thoughtless, and I made you worry. But now the Lee family and ours are closely tied. And by marrying into the Lee family, it will strengthen both the Zhang Group and Lee Group. This is a win-win situation." After 5 years of entrepreneurship, when it came to everything outside of Clara and Bella, I could always weigh the pros and cons and make the best choice. Unfortunately, when it came to matters of the heart, I lost miserably. My parents listened to me and were visibly relieved. Back at home, we had a hearty lunch together, but my back, still not fully recovered, started aching again. My parents noticed my discomfort and immediately suggested taking me to see a doctor. I shook my head in refusal. "Mr. Zhang, if you let a small ailment drag on, it'll turn into something big. Don't ignore your health." At that moment, I saw Melissa standing at the door, frozen in place. You're not." I never expected that the Melissa I had heard was in a wheelchair would be standing right in front of me, looking perfectly fine. Her long legs resembled anyone else's. Melissa was deeply concerned about my health and insisted on taking me to the hospital for a checkup. Reluctantly, I agreed. On the way to the hospital, I wanted to ask her about her legs, but the pain in my back kept me restless, and my thoughts kept drifting back to Clara and Bella. Over the past 5 years, whenever my back ached, I'd been in this same uncomfortable state. At first, they would stubbornly take me to see a doctor, but later, they seemed to stop caring as much. I, a grown man, wasn't the type to complain about every little discomfort. And after all, they had their own lives to live. But when Ethan came to the lounge and I ended up hospitalized for back surgery, they didn't even visit. They were too busy taking Ethan to all the trendy restaurants for photo ops. The loneliness and helplessness of being alone in the hospital were magnified by their indifference as they let Ethan take credit for everything and spread rumors that I was unreliable. The pain became so unbearable that I simply became numb to it. In that moment, I was grateful for Ethan's appearance. At least I didn't have to choose between Clara and Bella anymore. Melissa noticed my troubled expression and gently massaged my back. Mr. Zhang, just a little longer. We're almost at the hospital. Fortunately, my parents stayed home to give Melissa and me space to bond, or else I'd have a hard time explaining to them how I had ruined my health chasing after money. Melissa, upon reviewing the surgery records, radiated a chilling aura. For some reason, I felt a bit guilty. Melissa, if you mind that I have back problems, we can call off the wedding. After all, the doctor said I'd need to be careful with any physical activity. Instead, she raised her eyes, her eyelids red with emotion, and her voice slightly choked. Mr. Zhang, it's my fault. If I hadn't insisted on holding you to the marriage promise, you wouldn't have had to suffer so much. Besides, you never rejected me for being disabled. I was so nervous, rubbing my fingers, bracing myself for her to call off the engagement. But instead, Melissa was apologizing to me. I didn't have time to ask about her legs before my phone rang. It was Clara. Mr. Zhang, what's going on? Did you sabotage Ethan's contract? Why is Anna insisting on high fees and asking us to refund the money? Don't tell me you're trying to get back at Ethan by kissing Anna again. I didn't want Melissa to misunderstand, so I quickly covered the phone and stepped away to a quieter spot. But Clara assumed I was admitting to it. She immediately became furious. Mr. Zhang, don't you realize you're digging your own grave? Are you crazy? I think you're the crazy one. Ask Ethan about the contract. It's none of my business. Then Bella suddenly chimed in. This lounge was founded by the three of us. How can it not be your business? You need to get in touch with Anna, no matter what it takes. This major client has to keep spending at our lounge, or it will be a huge loss for us. Bella's insinuations were blatant. Faced with their self-interest, I had become the scapegoat. In the past, I had willingly studied clients' preferences and worked hard to win them over. It didn't feel like a sacrifice. Now, looking back, while I was out in the world facing the elements, they only had to handle the lounge's back-office operations. I had essentially made it too easy for them. Taking a deep breath, I coldly told them, the lounge is no longer my concern. You two can figure it out yourselves. But they didn't believe me, thinking I was just angry and making empty threats. Mr. Zhang, if you help us recover the contract, we'll buy you a supercar out of our own pockets. I couldn't help but laugh. Do they really think I care about a luxury car? I hung up the phone without a second thought and blocked both Clara and Bella. Out of humanitarian concern, I didn't want Freya to take a huge loss immediately after acquiring shares. So I called her. To my surprise, she laughed and said, Don't worry, they should suffer a little. Only when they come begging me will they realize what they've lost. Mr. Zhang, have you ever considered partnering with me to open another lounge? We could split the shares evenly. I politely declined her offer, introduced a few old employees who had been dismissed by Clara to her, and then returned to the examination room. Inside, Melissa was discussing post-surgery precautions for my back with the doctor. A warm feeling surged in my heart. On the way home, I told her not to mention anything about my health to my parents. She turned to me and swore, Don't worry, as long as I'm here, your back will recover. I looked up and met her earnest gaze, clear and sincere. In that moment, my heart raced. This was a feeling I'd never had when Clara and Bella had confessed their love to me. I blushed and softly responded. From that day on, Melissa visited my home every day. No one expected her to come over daily to help with my rehabilitation. At first, my parents thought we were developing a romantic relationship, occasionally eavesdropping on us by the door. Later, they realized that she was just helping me recover and grew to like her more and more. Surprisingly, under her care, my recovery exceeded the doctor's expectations. One evening, my mother pulled me aside to talk about Melissa. I learned that the several versions of the wedding plan she'd sent me were all personally designed by Melissa. When we were choosing a wedding plan, I hesitated because every proposal she designed was exactly what I wanted. Mr. Zhang, Melissa never mentioned marrying you again after the accident, but we always felt guilty, so we kept testing your feelings. She added, If she ended up in a wheelchair forever, even if you wanted to marry her, she wouldn't. Bringing her into our family would be a blessing. I never knew that Melissa had kept quiet about the marriage because she didn't want to burden me. I understood why my parents had hidden this from me. If I'd known, I would have felt guilty and married her out of obligation. So they took on all the pressure just so I could be myself. The love my parents gave me, combined with Melissa's silent, selfless affection, made me tear up. From then on, Melissa and I were both extremely busy. We went to try on wedding dresses, take wedding photos, and whenever I felt a little tired, she would apply a hot compress or massage my back. At first, I felt a bit embarrassed. Seeing her worried face, I let her do whatever she wanted. When her hands got tired, I would hold her hand to help her relax. Her hands, so soft and delicate, gradually warmed up, and I could clearly see her ears turning red, eventually coloring her neck. As the sunset fell, we walked hand in hand, feeling the tranquility of time. The marriage between the Zhang and Li families made headlines across the city. The paparazzi took photos of us, but were too scared to release them. So rumors spread about how affectionate Melissa and I were. It was supposed to be a major positive event for both family stock markets, but someone dug up information from a dubious website and started spreading malicious rumors about me, saying I was a playboy who loved all ages, especially older women. They even claimed I was into the indulgences of wealthy women. The storm it caused was immense. People began to speculate whether this century-old marriage would fall apart. Our family stocks dropped, and Lee's company suffered as well. Given the scale of the issue, I couldn't keep my entrepreneurial past a secret anymore. I had nothing to hide, but I didn't want Melissa to misunderstand me as the kind of person the rumors described. So, I went to explain to Melissa, bringing the original report of the incident. Before I could show her anything, she held me tightly with eyes full of sympathy. "Mr. Zhang, I'll always trust you." Something exploded in my mind. Trust was that simple, with no need for any evidence. Together we reported it to the police, who immediately took action and apprehended the person behind the rumors. All the gossip came to an abrupt halt. The stocks bounced back, but I wasn't going to let those behind the scenes get away with it. Both the Zhang and Li families took action, and it didn't take long to uncover that the person behind all the trouble was Ethan. I wasn't the least bit surprised by this outcome. When I sued Ethan, Clara, and Bella, who were in High City, only then learned that I was actually a wealthy heir. They rushed to the city overnight to meet with me. "Mr. Zhang, we didn't expect Ethan's unintentional mistake to cause you so much harm. You're so rich. Can you just let it go and not stoop to his level? He's just starting out in the world. He doesn't know much." I immediately interrupted Bella. "He's 22, not 12. He stole my credit and took all the glory for himself. I thought he was just too eager, but he repeatedly spread rumors about me. I'm no saint." The two of them couldn't believe Ethan would do such a thing. When I threw the evidence and photos in their faces, their expressions turned pale. How was that possible? They never imagined that the seemingly harmless Ethan had deliberately altered a photo of Anna and me riding horses, making it look like we were on the same horse together, kissing. In reality, we were each on our own horses. Later, he took a picture of me looking pained and holding my waist after injuring it. In that pose, it did look suggestive. Given the privacy of the exclusive riding club, he had calculated that I couldn't obtain surveillance footage to prove my innocence. So, he took the photos and claimed I was involved with Anna, and no one questioned it. He was clever, only sharing the photos in the lounge's internal group, emphasizing that they couldn't be leaked, or else it would ruin Anna's reputation. What he didn't expect was that Anna would eventually discover his lies and credit theft. Even more unexpectedly, Anna, upset by the rumors, decided to withdraw her membership and encouraged her friends to do the same. Bella trembled, her face full of disbelief. "Ethan, how dare he? I treated him well. So why would he do this to you?" I shrugged nonchalantly. "That's between you two. Don't ask me." Clara pressed her lips tightly together, no longer pleading on Ethan's behalf. Her gaze was no longer one of disdain or contempt. Instead, it had returned to the familiar, once tender affection. I was disgusted by this realization. I quickly turned to leave, but the two of them grabbed me on either side. "Mr. Zhang, don't leave us. Please don't marry her. We were misled. Misunderstood you. Can you forgive us?" I forcefully pulled my hands away, returning the slap they had once given me. "What do you mean, no real harm? I injured my back trying to get Anna to visit our lounge, ending up needing surgery. You just took advantage and let Ethan spread rumors about me. You got me drunk to celebrate Ethan learning to drive, and I had an allergic reaction and had to be hospitalized. How is that not harm, Mr. Zhang? You really went to the hospital twice. Even if it was an allergy, it couldn't have been that serious. Why didn't you tell us? I looked at them as if they were idiots. I pulled up the video of Ethan drinking. See, this is what I mean by not that serious. Finally realizing they had been deceived, they understood that I had no reason to lie. Clara raised her hand and slapped herself hard. Mr. Zhang, I'm so sorry. It was our fault, but the lounge was something we built together. Can you really walk away from it? Yes, Mr. Zhang. We agreed to make the lounge bigger and stronger. Once we had enough money, we were going to travel the world together. Remember, if you get married, how will the three of us ever travel the world again? I took out my phone and showed them the share transfer agreement I signed with Freya. Sorry, but the lounge is no longer my concern. You two can continue with Ethan, but I'm only going to be with my wife. The two of them stared at the transfer agreement, their faces a mix of anger and shock. Oh, Mr. Zhang, you knew Freya and we are rivals. How could you transfer the shares to her? Even if you didn't want the lounge, you should have transferred them to Bella and me. I knew they would try to twist things later. I immediately pulled up the email I had sent to both of them at the time. Take a good look. From the moment you insisted on bringing Ethan into the lounge despite my objections, I sent you the share transfer notice. Unfortunately, I waited for 30 days and neither of you responded. According to company law, that means you both tacitly agreed I could transfer my shares on my own. Freya made me an offer I couldn't refuse. After all these years of working like a mule, I'm not going to keep sacrificing myself as I leave. The two of them quickly logged into their work emails but found that there was no email from me. With my gentle reminder, they recovered the deleted messages. Their faces instantly turned pale. It was Ethan. Ethan deleted the email. There's no way we would have agreed to the share transfer otherwise. What a pair of legal ignoramuses. Even if they disagreed, what of it? There's no law saying that starting a business with them was equivalent to a lifelong contract. Enough with the talking. Instead of wasting time with me, why don't you go back and figure out how to win Anna's favor and clean up your mess? Clara bit her lip, her eyes red as she told me. Mr. Zhang, we know we were wrong, but the lounge was also your creation. Can you really bear to see it fall apart? Thinking of Freya's advice, I decided to show some mercy. Freya is also a shareholder now. If you're really desperate, you can go to ask her. She should be able to save the day. Seeing that I really didn't care whether the lounge survived or not and that I was even using my rival to shame them, Bella was almost in tears. Mr. Zhang, even if you don't care about the lounge, how could you just leave Clara and me behind? I know you're angry at us for taking care of Ethan, but you can't treat your marriage like a joke, a marriage of convenience for wealth. There's no love in it, and Melissa is known in wealthy circles. This is a pitfall you're jumping into. Clara quickly chimed in, nodding her head. What's so great about her? What can she give you besides money? Being with her is like being a widower. Bella and I can give you all the money and love you need. Please come back to us. We'll be like we were before. I couldn't help but laugh. My parents always said I had bad judgment when it came to people. I used to deny it. Now I truly understood where I went wrong. These two nobodies, and I mistook them for treasures. Even if she's disabled, you're not even worth a strand of her hair. Besides, I don't need the so-called love you two are offering. Don't insult love by calling it that. Just thinking about how they wanted me to sacrifice my dignity to help them when back Anna made my stomach churn. Even though they had mistakenly thought I used my appearance to win clients, they had no right to ask such a thing. That was the last straw. Yet neither of them realized their mistake. Mr. Zhang, we didn't force you to go after clients. You did it willingly. It was our fault. I spat in my own face, cursed my poor judgment. Clara noticed my expression and immediately slapped Bella across the face. If you don't know how to talk, just shut up. You've already pissed him off, and you're still saying things that hit below the belt. Bella had been holding back her anger and upon Clara's slap retaliated without hesitation. "Who are you to lecture me when I brought up that idea? You were right there too. Why didn't you speak up? So I'm the bad guy and you're the saint, huh?" Every time Mr. Jang went to meet clients, I insisted on tagging along because I didn't trust him. You kept saying I was trying to take advantage of the situation, that I was competing with you fairly, and what did I get in return? I ended up just hanging out with you at the lounge doing nothing. You're so brave. Why didn't you go meet clients instead? Clara's eyes turned bloodshot with fury. The two of them started bickering and shoving each other right in front of me. "Are you really saying this isn't your fault? Who was it that saw Ethan and couldn't move? Kept saying he looked pitiful and needed help? Did I bring Ethan back to the lounge alone? If it weren't for you lusting after his abs, trying to flirt with him, and pulling me in, saying it would get under Mr. Jang's skin. Where are we now? Now that it all blew up, you're blaming it all on me, huh?" The two of them kept accusing each other back and forth. Just then, Melissa arrived, looking worried that I might get caught in their mess. She quickly ran over and stood behind me, grabbing my hand tightly. "Mr. Jang, I'm sorry I'm late. Did they hurt you?" After confirming I was unharmed, Melissa looked at Clara and Bella with an icy cold glare. The two, still arguing, froze when they saw me holding Melissa's hand. She was fair-skinned, beautiful, with both legs intact and moving easily. They couldn't believe their eyes. "Mr. Jang, who is she?" Melissa coldly replied. "I'm the so-called disabled person you two have been talking about." The two of them exchanged a glance, their hatred boiling over. Without another word, they clenched their fists and charged at us, attempting to separate my hand from Melissa's. But they underestimated the power of the Lee family's bodyguards. They were immediately stopped, and Melissa, furious at how they had treated me, slapped one of them. "Don't let me see you two again. If I do, I'll slap you both every time." Under the sparkling lights, Melissa and I walked home hand in hand. The next day was our wedding day. I thought Clara and Bella would have given up by then, but to my surprise, they showed up at my wedding. Looking completely exhausted and attempting to crash the hotel, they yelled about loving me, saying they couldn't live without me and insisting they were the ones who should bear my children. But nothing could stop Melissa and me from exchanging our rings and sharing a passionate kiss. They were easily escorted out by security. The only thing they could do was watch us from the screens, tearfully witnessing our magnificent wedding. Afterwards, when I saw pictures online of the two of them crying in each other's arms, I felt nothing. I couldn't give up the lounge I'd worked so hard to build. When my parents found out what Clara and Bella had done, they secretly worked with Melissa and sent Ethan to prison. Then, they forced Clara and Bella into a corner and bought the lounge we had founded from them. That lounge represented 5 years of my hard work, and they wouldn't let those two trashy women touch it. In the end, the lounge came back to me, but Melissa and I were too busy managing the Zhang and Lee conglomerates to care about it anymore. I entrusted Freya to take care of it. After all, without her help, I wouldn't have found the evidence of Ethan's sabotage so quickly. After our marriage, Melissa and I grew closer, and both of our family businesses thrived. Everything was back on track.